Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. All right, so we've been recording this whole time, so it's a great lead in. We might as well get started, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Innovation Unplugged, a production of the Innovation Center, part of the community college system in Alabama. I'm Houston Blackwood, workforce director for this crazy group, and today in studio I've got Brandy Merrill, director of curriculum design, and on Zoom, because they are not ever in the same place for long, we've got Lindsay Cline, who's the Southern Regional Director for the U.S. Navy Maritime Industrial Base, and she's got other titles too. And also with us is Jennifer Hall, teammate from the system office, but she is the Southern Regional Workforce Director and the Maritime Lead. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, we had a conversation Monday night. We had we had a strategy session, and I was like, hey, podcast is Wednesday. We've got an opening that let's get the submarine folks on. And so it worked out. You guys were available by Zoom, and we tried to do this a while back. We just didn't make it happen. Yeah. We didn't ask the question. So we're here now, and we're so gracious that you guys were able to be with us and willing to chit chat for a while. So
it was meant to be.
Yeah, welcome. So we'll start with Lindsay. Just give us a quick rundown because they'll cut us off in 45 minutes. We got a lot to talk about, but a quick rundown of who you are. And I know the world knows we've seen your action figures and we've seen all your posts, and you guys are very good at what you do.
Go look it up, people. Yeah, y'all all know the social media trend of action figures, and I'll be honest, about the time you were doing yours, I want you to answer your questions, but about the time you were doing yours, I was working on ours, and I did our group one, and I did individual one, and yours by far was the best one I had ever seen. So I'm going to kick it off to you and say, tell us all about what that action figure represents.
It's so funny because it named me automatically Shipbuilder Supreme, and I thought that was so funny. And it kind of sums it up, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what we're all doing here in Alabama. I always like to kind of start with my intro to make sure, that I'm telling the story of who I am and why I'm passionate about what I'm doing. So, I'm from Calhoun County, Alabama. I'm a high school dropout from Oxford, Alabama, that ended up making it into Gadsden State Community College, where I had the most incredible transformational experience that really propelled me into being in this position today, ultimately. So I am a huge supporter of the Alabama Community College system and everything that it brings to students across the state. And we're so fortunate to have the leadership that we do in our community college system. Prior to joining the Maritime Industrial Base, I was the president of education for Phillips Corporation, which is the world's largest distributor of pause automation CNC equipment. So I was working really closely with multiple states throughout the country, particularly at the community college level on the technical side. And what I kept noticing is that Alabama really was doing such an excellent job comparatively, particularly at the 2-year level. And I kept thinking, am I biased? Am I biased? Is that what's happening? But that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. What happened is that we had really brilliant leadership that chose early on to make workforce development an integral portion of community college offerings in this state. And that has made all the difference because we were light years ahead when it was time for us to get started on our maritime efforts, which is what brings us to this conversation today. So about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I was recruited by the Navy to come and help them build the ecosystem, particularly in Alabama, to build submarines. We have not taken on a mission like this in the state before. We have built surface ships here for some time, but submarines are new to our Gulf Coast. And so came in to get that work started. And then a couple months later, we expanded from the submarine industrial base to the maritime industrial base. And so that gave me the good fortune of being able to work with other shipyards in the Gulf Coast that were also doing surface ship work and other work for the Navy. So over in Mississippi, down in Louisiana, and then over in Florida. We also have a submarine base and a refit facility in Georgia, and we have shipyards in Florida. We have a new shipyard that was just purchased by Ingalls Falls in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
And then we have a lot of suppliers in Tennessee and Arkansas. So it's a large region. But here in Alabama, we have a lot of work, and we're going to need to hire about 10,000 people over the next 10 years in order to make it happen. And so it's a really interesting time for Alabama, because just like back during World War II, when Alabama shipyard was called upon to come and lead the charge to build our country's surface ships, we have now been called upon again to come and build the submarines that are going to ultimately support the security of our nation. So really proud time to be an Alabamian, and I'm really fortunate that I've had the good fortune to work with Jennifer Hall and Barry May, of course, to make sure that we are aligning our skill sets and our training offerings in the community college to be what is necessary to make sure that we're not just meeting the immediate needs of the shipyards, but the long-term needs as well.
Wow. That's impressive.
It's a lot.
And there's so much to unpack there. Like, I have so many questions. Like, when you first got that call, what was going through your mind? And, now you've got the White House has its own Office of Shipbuilding, if I'm taglining it right.
Yes.
And then how your and Jennifer's relationship began, and all of the things. And so I know we want to kick to Jennifer to get her to tell her story too, but I want to come back to all of those things, because man, I have never wanted to play the national anthem or stand up or say the Pledge of Allegiance or be like, hoorah.
Just scream Roll Tide.
No, I cannot do that.
No.
I can't. She's
Well, Jennifer,
you have 3 Auburn women on this call. There's no way you're going to fly with that.
well, Nick Saban disagrees. Jennifer, you've also got an interesting story, and what I love is the segue of like in a good Nicholas Sparks, you got the different chapters, and they're all like coming together, like to like the middle of the book. So, before we get to the middle of the book, Jennifer, you've got a great story too. How did you get here? Is that we don't know?
It is interesting, and I've really thought a lot lately, and Lindsay and I have talked about this. How this all began was from Chancellor Baker, tasked Barry May with improving the labor participation rate. And so Barry and I got together and looked at the state and looked at the data and said, okay, where can we make the biggest impact? And so, we chose Mobile, and then one thing led to another, and President Charles at Bishop State had a conversation with Austell, and Austell had a pretty large need for, at the time, it was 400 welders. And so we immediately got to work on what we called the Labor Participation Project, and worked closely with Austell and created the Set Sail program, which was, entry-level welding. We took individuals who had 0 welding experience and put them through a fast-track 4-week program, and they transitioned into Austell's apprenticeship position there.
Right.
And so it's really just evolved, and that, I guess, started, in fall of 23. And then part of that, we hosted a hiring event at Bishop. It was on a Saturday morning. It was storming. Oh my goodness. Like literally the streets flooded, and the manholes like in the streets came up, and we're just in the middle of the street. It was crazy, the weather that morning. We had over 500 people show up that day. And I say this all the time. We hear across the state, oh, how are we going to get people back to work? People don't want to work, so on. Y'all, we had over 500 people show up in that weather. It was storming. Y'all, they were dressed to the nines. They were ready for interviews. Austell hosted, if you came and you had any experience, or let's say you had been through one of our community colleges welding programs, you got an interview that day. It was so impressive. People came with their diplomas. They were so excited.
Awesome.
So we know people want to work, and specifically we know that people want to work in the shipbuilding industry. And so that is so reassuring when, Lindsay talks about, we're going to need 10,000 workers throughout 10 years, but y'all, in the next 5 years, the numbers we've been given, we're going to need 5,000 or more in the short term. And we're already in to 2025, and those numbers were from 24. Wow. So we know it's just going to continue to increase. And now with the focus from the new administration, that's just going to grow. But so I'm kind of getting off track. But so yeah, we had that hiring event. And then I guess I got an email from Lindsay that said, hey, I never met Lindsay, heard great things about her. And she said, can we meet, over like a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting? And so we met and talked about some things. One thing led to another, and I was blessed in that I'll go back. Lindsay was going to host a meeting at Allsouls roundtable discussion, and it was on a holiday. It was on June, was it 19th of last year?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one thing happened. I think Barry was supposed to go. Barry couldn't go, so I got to go. And y'all, that was the beginning. Lindsay and I connected in person, and we've hit the ground running. And I think to think about what we have accomplished, and really since June of last year, in less than a year, is just phenomenal. We have this incredible partnership with Austell. I talk to them every day. Bishop State, Coastal Alabama, work very closely with them, then Reed State and LBW as well. So yeah, that's kind of a very brief summary of everything we've done. I feel like I should probably buy a house in Mobile as my second.
Yeah, probably so.
I found out yesterday that my sister is moving to Virginia. And I was like, well, Virginia's kind of like my other home. I spend a lot of time there too. So it's kind of worked out.
That's cool. That's cool. What a story.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, all it took was like that one email, that one meeting Barry couldn't go to. And you just never know. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, but you just never know in life. And you try to tell your kids, hey, you never know what's coming around the corner. You think you can anticipate, and then you can't. And then all of a sudden now, here y'all come into this probably what I would imagine is a very male-dominated industry. And here come these very two strong, independent women to conquer the maritime workforce need in the state. And so I am amazed. And it's the cool factor is pretty high.
It's interesting that you brought that up because, the president of Austell is a woman as well, Michelle Kruger, and one of the most phenomenal leaders I've ever met. And so it's been really interesting. I was recruited by a woman. My boss is a woman, right? There's a lot of females in this industry. And if you go back and you look at World War II and what was going on down in Mobile, it was the women that were building the ships back then. And they were really innovative in the way that they approached it. One of the things that we talk about a lot in workforce, as you both know, is wraparound services. Mm-hmm. And I go back and I think about the way that they did that, during the war, and it was them taking care of each other, right? Yeah. And so if Lucy's on a shift, then Sally's taking care of Lucy's kids, and then vice versa. And it's a really interesting way to look at it. The shipbuilding industry, I was not part of at all prior to a year ago. This has all been new to me. And I'm telling you, it is an incredible blessing to get the opportunity to know the people who are part of this culture. This is so much more than just about building ships. I mean, shipbuilders are proud people. They are talented people. They are some of the most interesting people you'll ever meet. And you'll find the same when you get into the culture of the Gulf Coast. So a lot of us were born in Alabama, a lot of us were raised in Alabama, but not many of us really have had that firsthand experience with the magic of the culture that is the Gulf Coast. So that's part of the way that I view my job. That's part of the job that I do, is making sure that everyone all the way up to the shoals understands, hey, this is what's going on down there. And it's something that we all get to be a part of. It's not just a waterfront mission. This is something that affects every last one of us.
Yeah, it's cool because it's the fabric of the state. But then at the same time, it's also a massive initiative, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, a massive initiative of this administration. And so, there's a whole lot there that's exciting.
One of the things we've also learned throughout this, or at least I know I have, is no matter where you go in the country, you find that Alabama has such a huge impact on the shipbuilding and maritime industry as a whole. When you go to Virginia and you walk in their apprenticeship school and you see their director and you're like, I know you, she's from Alabama.
Yeah.
Or when you go to Mississippi and the woman there that's leading a lot of their efforts, who I know y'all know, Courtney, from Alabama. So it has just really been amazing at the people from Alabama who are really leading and changing this industry. It's awesome.
Is that Courtney Taylor?
Yes.
Yeah, she hired me at Calhoun, and she left. I took her job as a director, and then when this innovation center came on, she was like, "It's a dumb idea. It won't work. Don't take that job." So 5 years later,
look at me now.
Like 5 years later, Courtney, we've talked since then, but love her. Like she gave me a chance, and I didn't know anything about workforce. I was a teacher, so what did I know? But it's cool to hear that story, and Courtney is much like you three, I can tell. I know this one well, but anyway, what's been your biggest hurdle? We'll go with Lindsay first, then Jennifer. The biggest hurdle in getting this off the ground, because I heard the initiative of now we need subs, and I think I know the geopolitical reasons for that. We can go there if we need to, but certainly just the economy and the workforce in Alabama that Jennifer talked about. But what was the biggest hurdle to get this off the ground?
Yeah. I think it ended up being more of a blessing than it was a hurdle, and such an opportunity for us to really change the nature and the landscape of this work. It's that we have a lot of shipyards. We are blessed with a lot of work on the Gulf Coast, and so we don't just have Austell, we have Alabama Shipyard, which is, we have Mobile Naval Yard now. We have Bollinger, we have Ingalls, we have Eastern, Bollinger has another shipyard down in Louisiana. So historically speaking, there has been some type of competition for workforce, right? And we wanted to make sure that we were figuring out every way possible to alleviate the competition nature of this, so that we could work together, right? And that's where the Alabama Community College Maritime Consortium really came in here, because I wanted to be innovative in the way that we approach the labor shed, and not just looking at the waterfront counties to recruit from, but moving a little north and a little east to start looking at people that may be within a commuter distance, or have a very heavy population of individuals who are already making a trip down and back that may be interested in getting some maritime training skills. And so that's what we did when we built out this partnership with the Alabama Community College System. We obviously looked at Bishop State, which is right there in Mobile. We obviously looked at Coastal Alabama, which is doing an excellent job at multiple different campuses that are part of the very immediate counties. But we also went to LBW in Op, where there's a lot of individuals who are already making that trip to go down and work in the oil industry. And then we looked at Reed State in Evergreen in Conecuh County as well, which is right there, perfectly positioned. And what really, really struck me about Reed State was that when I went to visit, I walked into their welding facility, and I found a building that had been built back in the 1960s and not really touched since, right?
Yep.
It was hot, y'all. I think it was like July or August. It was so hot. It was not climate controlled. And then I met the instructor, and I found out they had a wait list. And my brain immediately was like, imagine what would happen here if they did have some awesome resources to support these students in their journey to become, maritime welders. And so we have such magic happening in our skilled trades throughout the community college system, particularly at the instructor level. Our instructors are absolutely hands down the best. And I always say that the magic of the program is the magic of the instructor. You will always be able to point to the instructor, and there's a direct line between that instructor and how successful the program is. And these 4 schools that have been chosen have some of the strongest instructors I've ever met.
I couldn't agree more. That was my background. I was an instructor for ultrasound program here with the community college system out at Trenton. And you speak right to the thread of what is here at the colleges. I think the chancellor, is always like, this is the community's college. So you have your instructors there who know that community, who know those students, but are passionate about seeing the success of those students. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And, I think a lot of times people sit back and look at education in a broad sense, but that is exactly it. Like, students, programs, the success of industries really kind of starts with how well that instructor can get across information to those students, that are in front of them, and help to create the purpose, for that instruction, and always the why behind. So I could go on about this for a very long time, but on behalf of all the instructors at ACCS, thank you, Lindsay, because that is 100%. That is a lot of the hard work is done right there, boots on the ground, student to instructor. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, that goes back, to my personal story, and going back to my own instructors with Gadsden State Community College, right? I mean, my transformational experience was not just a result of Gadsden State Community College. It was a result of the instructor seeing me and believing in me and giving me a lot of confidence that I've never even had before, right? So when you have people that are saying, hey, I don't care how tough it's been for you, I'm not giving up on you. Like, I see something else. That's what really, really is transformational about that experience in the community college system, is that it's an accessible way for anyone to go in and create a new life for themselves. And you can start there or you can end there. It doesn't matter. Either way, you have a really great opportunity to build a great life. And we go on, and I know this has just become common conversation, which is a good thing. At every dinner table throughout the country now, you hear this thing, four-year college is not for everyone. Four-year college is not for everyone. Thank goodness everyone's talking about it now, because that was not the case a couple of years ago. But we know for sure that if you do choose to go to a 2-year school and you do choose to become an expert at one of our skilled trades, you're going to have a great life. If that's what you choose to do, we can help you with that, right? And if you choose to do that in maritime, not only are you building this great life and creating some generational wealth for yourself and your family, but you're also serving your country. And that's a really beautiful thing to be a part of here in Alabama. And you're absolutely right. It's a really interesting time to be in shipbuilding, right? Like, I could have never dreamed when I got that call a year ago that we would see this incredible emphasis and focus on maritime and on shipbuilding from the new administration. My phone has not stopped ringing since that announcement was made. It's been really, really fun. It's been wild. And we don't talk a whole lot about the why behind that, right? Because the why can be a little scary. It can be a little intimidating when you find out just how far behind we really are, right? Like, we've got work to do. We got to catch up. We've got to get ourselves back on track when it comes to our maritime capabilities, on behalf of the security of our country. But what I love about it is I'm confident. And the reason I'm confident is because they called Alabama, right?
Yeah.
And there's nobody in this country that they should have called first. It was us. And so I feel 100% sure that on the submarine front, we are in very good hands with what's going on down in Mobile. And, spreading that even further, they called Mississippi and they called Louisiana, and we've got a lot of work going on over there. So I'm really proud of the fact that not only am I part of it, but that we're going to be able to spread that mission to 10,000 more people.
Gosh, that's awesome.
Jennifer, to that note, Lindsay mentioned that Alabama got the call, and it was beautiful that it happened, and we're behind, and we are. A lot of reports will say that, for whatever reason, some of our adversaries are ahead. I know the boot wearers and the dirt kickers of the world who are going to take these jobs and take this training, but the community college system so well. How do you see that hurdle of getting the information to these students about what is possible in the shipbuilding world? What's the big hurdle there?
I don't know that there's a hurdle. And here's why I say that. Because the Maritime Industrial Base has done an exceptional job working with buildsubmarines.com and doing so much. I don't know, Lindsay, if you want to talk about that campaign. They partnered with various sports teams and NASCAR and different entities to get the word out. We've had record visits to buildsubmarines.com where programs are highlighted, jobs are highlighted. Obviously there is a hurdle, to make sure that everyone is receiving the message. And I think we're only going to see the word spread even faster. As when, like Lindsay said, when Trump announced his focus on shipbuilding as a state, our focus, we just last week Governor Ivey signed a proclamation declaring May as Maritime Month in Alabama, and that will be an annual event. So we'll start hosting events across the state we'll partner with the Maritime Industrial Base and build submarines to host these events to really get the word out so people know about this opportunity for a career. It's not even just about the job, but it is a lifelong career that has a generational impact. Because we know when this parent gets this job in shipbuilding and they have this successful career and they're able to provide for their family and they prosper, that has a direct impact on their children, their grandchildren, and so on. Just like we heard that, the shipbuilding need is a generational need, right? This will impact, of course, our generation, but the generations to follow. So I don't really know if I have a hurdle necessarily, because there has just been so much tremendous work already done that we're just going to continue to grow those efforts.
Yeah, that buildsubmarines.com. My dad was a big NASCAR fan. And I saw that on a car, and I saw it at some stadiums. I'm like, that's really cool. I think y'all did such a magic job with that broadcast, and so I wonder, what is it like when you get these calls from these young men and women who are like, hey, I saw this and I want more. I want to know more. Like, what's your first step once they say, hey, I'm interested? Do you take them straight to a college, or do you take them through? What's your precursor? How do you get them from interest to training?
I mean, one of the most interesting models that we've used, and I'll keep in mind, what we're doing here in Alabama is relatively new, so we don't have a lot of longitudinal data to really provide to you right now on that effort. Yeah. One of the things that we have done nationally that's really, really innovative is ATDM, Accelerated Training for Defense Manufacturing. And this is a campus that's in Danville, Virginia. I think I have taken, I don't know how many people from the Alabama Community College system up to Danville to tour this facility. It's actually more than a facility. It's a community at this point.
Right.
But this is a Navy-backed campus specifically for maritime manufacturing that was created in order to provide a free way for anyone in the country to go and receive very meaningful intentional training that will provide them with a 16-week course. They live there, they graduate from there, and then they're immediately ready to go straight into defense manufacturing. So that's one of the ways that we're able to support students when they come to us, is to point them towards ATDM if they're interested in a model of that nature. But obviously here in Alabama, we'll be pointing them to one of our 4 schools that's already doing this work. The primary skill sets that we are focused on here in Alabama immediately, and this is going to be evolving over time, because keep in mind, this is not a one-year mission. This will be going on, well into my great-grandchildren's lives. Hopefully we never get to the point where we're behind in shipbuilding again. I hope we've learned our lesson. But right now, we're really focused on ship fitting, pipe fitting, and pipe welding and structural fitting. These are what we're calling the imminent and prevalent skill sets that are needed, not just here in Alabama, but all across the Gulf Coast. And so those are some of the skills, but we're evolving. So one of the things that we have to do in order to make sure that we stay on top of shipbuilding is look at our technology. So we're really focused on advanced manufacturing right now. We know that there will always be a need for those imminent and prevalent skill sets, and we are not going to take our foot off the gas in making sure that we have plenty of people trained in those. But we also have to be thinking very diligently about additive and automation, and a little CNC as well. So we also focus on those, and we have a lot of ideas about how we are going to roll out and make sure that our students are receiving that training as well.
I would love to see the robot welder that welds a ship together. Like we were down there in January. Jennifer invited us to a tour. We were walking through that. It was at Austell. That you got these like sections, and I'm a Lego nerd. You got these sections of this ship, and I'm like, okay, how are they going to match all that up, and who's going to weld all that together internally? Like, blows my mind. The complexity and the size of this thing. So when y'all get that robot built, that robot.
One thing we've heard from Austell is they don't currently have a lot of robotic welding. They have the one one room. But a lot of it is just human.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And the skill that these individuals have. And y'all, if you think about and the skill that these individuals have when they are welding this metal for a submarine, y'all. And it's how in the ocean this is going to go. Just to think about, y'all, let me tell you, if you are welding or ship fitting, pipe welding, whatever it is on a submarine, you are the best of the best. That is one thing we have learned, and your skill level is unmatched across any other industry.
That's incredible.
That is one thing I have learned throughout this. And y'all, the Alabama Community College system is going to be producing the best of the best.
That's right.
That is the process we're going through now to realign our programs. And we already produce very skilled welders. But when you think about the weld quality that it takes on a submarine that's going to go to the depths of the ocean, that this is next level. So it's really cool. And I get, as y'all can tell, really excited about it.
I think that kind of lends back to what we were talking about earlier about the instructors and just what a good base you've already got. Because I'm going to assume, we've got all of these welding programs and they're, like you said, already producing great skilled welders at what they do. So you get to come in with this initiative and say, okay, let's modify it slightly, and if we modify this slightly, then we can serve this, this initiative, this product, this state, and then obviously the whole country, which is a whole separate conversation on purpose. It's cool when you wake up one morning and you know your purpose for the day, but goodness gracious, just like you were talking about, it's generational purpose. But anyway.
I saw a guy hanging on the side of a ship. He was welding, and I was looking at him, and I was looking at a lot of the welders, and when you hear the term industrial athlete, we've heard that a lot of times. And so you're watching these guys, and like this one dude was like on his left side in some kind of harness welding upside down almost. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And I've seen pipe welders like on pipelines, like welding with a flame coming out of this pipe. I've seen them in knee-deep water welding. And so I just think, like, as you go out and tell this story and recruit these young men and women, like you're like, oh, you're going to be a welder. Okay, what does that look like? Well, you might be upside down on fire, next to fire or something. Like, it's crazy. So how do you tell that adventure part? I was a teacher. I was in a classroom that's air conditioned and my whole life.
Yeah.
But like, how do you sell that experience to these kids as you're going out?
I mean, it's superhero stuff, right?
It is. Yes.
It is.
And it's interesting though, and I mean that. Well, that's what we say. This is superhero stuff, right? When you are talking about, to Jennifer's point, welding on a submarine, those welds matter. Those welds are protecting our submariners that are protecting our country, right?
Yeah.
Like those welds really are a matter of national security, right? And so every single person that is responsible for making sure that submarine is welded properly is a hero, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
DBIRC is the MEP that serves the Pennsylvania and Delaware region of the country. And they actually created these really cool, like, superhero trading cards. Like, one's a welder and one's a machinist, and
awesome.
I think it's a really cool way to kind of get the message across to students, and we are focused on K-12 as well. And it goes back to the attraction and recruitment piece of this. I always like to make sure that people know, listen, when you see buildsubmarines.com on a NASCAR or at the University of Alabama or at Auburn or at an MLB game, right? That is a response from the Navy to what we kept hearing for years and years and years. And what we kept hearing for years and years and years was an industry demand for more students to go into trades.
Yeah.
And so I say this all the time because I watched you do it. The community college system really responded to that. You responded. Students know it exists. And that's where buildsubmarines.com comes in, is we wanted to make sure that we were drawing that line and connecting those dots so that students understand when they see buildsubmarines.com, that's more than just a website. That is a job search engine where they can go and see every single job that is in their region or beyond that would allow them to become part of the mission. It also lists all of the training programs that they can utilize in order to get there.
What a resource. Gosh, I know, because, coming from the Innovation Center side of things, and you mentioned industry response, and gosh, you're speaking our language because it's squarely in what all that we do. it's cool. It's cool to have that resource, because ultimately, I know Kayla and her marketing team every day strive to get that message out everywhere, right? And you've got a great message and a great story of, hey, if you want to, be an action figure, like that social media trend going around right now. If you want to be an action figure, if you want a really, really cool superhero job, come do this. I mean, that is one exciting message to get across to people. But at the same time, for those that might not want to hang off the side of the ship and weld upside down, if that doesn't necessarily, the superhero thing, appeal to them, I'll tell you from a personal perspective, and I think we could all probably go back to any point in time when something was meaningful and you got the why behind it, all of a sudden your perspective changed. That same tour, when we went down, we were able to walk on a mercy ship. And so knowing that moment, it's going to be a core memory, because, gosh, this is really cool. And, Houston talks about, hey, well, a Lego guy, and I was watching all these parts be put together. I was mesmerized by all of those things too. I think it was when, like, as you walk on that mercy ship and you realize, holy cow, like, this ship is going to go places and it's going to do things that are so beyond my ability to understand how it's going to save people. It's going to save lives. It's going to be there, when doctors and nurses have to be there, when you've got just the broad scope of all of that, put all the purpose and gift wrap package right there. And it was almost overwhelming, to be honest with you, was the meaning behind what is happening down there on that basis. So you can totally go sell this and message this to, gosh, this is exciting work. And it truly, truly is. But then that purpose behind it of, gosh, if they just could just see, like, this is exactly your story of, it's going way down deep, and here's the submarine, and here's what it's going to go do. But golly, that tug of the heartstrings of the purpose is just incredible.
It is.
Incredible.
It really is.
Jennifer, you have a long experience with the community college system, and now you've brought these this consortium, this maritime base, together, and every college has its own flavor, because they have different regions, different communities. And you mentioned it earlier, Lindsay, but Jennifer, in this state, they're territorial. Like, they'll fight you over a student that registers the wrong zip code. Not really. We love each other, but, like, how are you getting past that territory mindset that we've all had for so long? How are you working past that as a former territorial person? I was too, still am, about my home college. But how are you getting past that yourself, and then to tell other people, how do you get past this? Hey, let's all be this big, happy unity submarine building champion.
Oh, it's interesting because, yes, I mean, our colleges do have, our service areas, but I think a lot of people, especially in the South, will tell you that I was never, in large part, the person who was territorial. I've always had the mindset that we're in this together, and in order to make the impact, we have to work as a team and as a system. And I think that is very, very important to always remember, in my opinion. And so when we first started working with the 4 colleges, we had a conversation up front with the presidents and with the leadership, at the colleges. And we shared the mission, right? This is the need. This is the impact that this is going to have. It is critical to not just the state of Alabama, but our nation as a whole.
Yeah.
And y'all, our colleges didn't even flint.
Good.
They jumped in, and we have not had a moment of anyone being territorial or how are you going to do this. They have come together. They're right now the welding instructors from the 4 colleges who, y'all, we looked up. I cannot put into words. We have welding instructors with direct maritime experience who have worked in shipyards, who have non-destructive test certifications.
That's a big deal.
That is
a huge
deal.
So we just completely lucked up, and y'all, I call it a God wink.
Yeah.
And I think right place, right time. I think the good Lord lined all of this up.
Yeah.
And when you look back, I mean, it kind of gives me chills just to think about it, to be honest with you. When you look at the last year and a half and everything that has happened and how our colleges have come together, and y'all, it's really beyond just our colleges. And I think Lindsay would say this as well. We have had every single individual that we have called, whether it is within state government, in DC, in other states, the answer has not one time have they said no.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes we often experience the default as no. I've not experienced that, not one time.
You know, we never say no
And
either. And when I'll tell you this, when you called and said at some point in time, hey, would y'all be able to help us come alongside this innovation center? And we know that we'll at some point play a role in assisting, supporting, whatever that looks like. Our answer was unanimously, hands down, absolutely yes. So count us in that group of not territorial, here to support. Aye, Captain, like what's next? Like what do you all need from the Innovation Center? And I know our listeners, you know, have heard time and time again what we do and how we do it and how we do it quickly. And we're really here to, you know, support initiatives that are already going on or instruction that's already going on at the colleges. So I want to be a little bit selfish with our time and say, where do y'all see the Innovation Center coming alongside in support of this initiative, not only just, as I put in quotes, for our system itself, the communities, the state, but ultimately the country? Like, where do you see our role in helping to support you guys, and what can we do, whether it's today, tomorrow, next month, a year from now? Where do we land in what you need?
So one of the things, and I think we may have talked about this in the past, that I think is so important is we need individuals who have some foundational skills so that when they master those, they can move into more of these advanced positions. For example, like ship fitting. We want to be able to recruit individuals that maybe have these foundational skills. For example, Bishop State has their shipbuilding fundamentals course. And so that is a very short course. There's some like classroom instruction, and then there's hands-on labs. That might be a good opportunity. And I could see that course being so valuable in our high schools, and then any individual who has had zero welding or zero even manufacturing to enter into one of those programs. And it's really going to set them up for success and allow them to continue on that career pathway. Ship fitting or ship structural fitting, as we've talked about, we've had those conversations. That is going to be a non-credit training course. It's going to be a fast track, individuals to go through that and immediately go to work. And so I think that is an opportunity for us to partner and work closely together.
We are happy to be that first section of pipe in the pipeline.
Yeah.
No, it was so funny. Lindsay, in 5 years, we're getting close. We have an internal microphone and we always run over. But in 5 years, Lindsay, you've gotten this off the ground and you've taken Jennifer and y'all have changed Alabama's workforce. What are you toasting to in 5 years at the end of the work week on a Friday afternoon? You clink your glass and say, we just what?
We no longer have a labor shortage in our Gulf Coast shipyards. We have fulfilled the needs of the Navy to get us back on track, played our role to the extent that we have even more work in the Gulf Coast and even more shipyards ready to line up to help us build submarines and ships for the Navy.
I love that.
That's great.
Sounds like a good soundbite.
Yeah, that's a great soundbite. It's a great clink.
Jennifer, what about you?
I think that we're in such an interesting place because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, right? And we know that we're going to need more people to do it, right? And we know that we're going to need more shipyards to do it. We know that the new administration, they're not just looking at, okay, well, we're going to put more money into shipbuilding. That's not it. They're looking at, okay, we're going to figure out the supply chain issues. I always like to point this out because I want to make sure that when we're talking to Alabamians, I don't want anyone to think that this doesn't touch them. I don't care where you live in this state. This is also your mission So I don't care if you're in Muscle Shoals or Huntsville or Decatur. I know that you have your own stuff up there too, but this is also about every single rural supplier that may want to become part of our mission. So we have a lot of local machine shops. We have a lot of small little welding shops, right? We want to make sure that we're taking out the mystery that exists when it comes to our small shops wanting to join and become a supplier, right? So there's a lot of kind of mystique, I think, behind that process. Like it just seems so overwhelming sometimes, right? Especially for small shops. So what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that we are providing our small shops with the resources that they need from Defense Logistics Agency, from the Alabama Apex Accelerator, from Alabama Technology Network, from Alabama Community College System, and then of course from us, right? We're trying to bring all those pieces together to give them the support that they need to become part of this. And of course, that just grows our mission even more, yep. Right? The more suppliers we have in Alabama, the less work we're having to outsource outside of the state.
Well said.
Beautiful.
Well said. We probably need to get final thoughts on all that. So I'll pitch it to Jennifer first, then back to Lindsay. Final thoughts as we're wrapping this thing up.
So every week, and it's been really my pleasure, and it's really been an honor to be able to work with Lindsay and to work on this project since the beginning. But at the end of every week, I toast to this week I changed somebody's world. And because at the Alabama Community College System, that's what we do. And back in 2000, when I went to MacArthur State Technical College, which is now part of LBW Community College, I had an instructor. Her name was Tonita Sauls. And I got kind of emotional thinking about it. She changed my world. And I wouldn't be where I am today if she hadn't invested in me and my classmates, of course, and the many students before me and after me. So every week, if I've had that impact and I've been able to change the world, and it's funny, I had someone one time who was very frustrated with me look at me and say, "You think you can change the world?" And I look back at them and say, "I am." I think that's important to remember, that we have that power every single day to change someone's world, that in turn changes the world that we live in. And so that's kind of my mindset every day, and why I do what I do. And honestly, I ask for forgiveness. Oftentimes at the beginning of every meeting, I'll say I'm going to ask for forgiveness in advance, because I push pretty hard. And that is because I know what we're capable of and the impact we can have. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my thoughts and what I toast to every week.
Love it. I love that. I don't mind the push. Lindsay, final thoughts from this episode.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you asked what you could do to help, and I think that today is a huge part of that. Getting the word out is such an important thing, and making sure that everyone understands what's happening, how they can become part of it, what we're doing to ensure that they can become a part of it. So, just really appreciative of everyone that has welcomed us onto podcasts and, television shows and all the different things. It's just been really, really important. And of course, Chancellor Baker's support is the most meaningful thing. Sure. He has been so incredible at making sure that we're able to connect the dots. And I think that in terms of final thoughts, I want everyone to really understand the magnitude of this mission, mm-hmm. right? This is something that is going to impact the state, because we haven't just come in and said, "Hey, we're doing something new." We've come in and said, "We are now a submarine state." That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Up until now, there were only a handful of those, and they were nowhere near the Gulf Coast. So the fact that we have now become part of that ecosystem is very, very important. You're going to see changes all throughout the state as a part of that. And so I hope that everyone gets ready for that and is prepared for the excitement that's to come, whether you're in Mobile or you're in Huntsville or you're in Callahan County, where I'm from. There's a lot of really important work that is going to be coming. And I hope that anybody that wants to be a part of that in whatever way will reach out to us and ask for help to get there.
Cheers to that.
Yep. Love it.
I mean, that's awesome.
We have kind of a tagline or slogan, and Mark Salmon in facilities actually came up with it.
That's funny.
And it is, we train giants to build giants.
Love it.
Yeah, that's the name of this episode, Building Giants.
Kind of adopted that slogan.
Love it.
Yeah.
Train giants to build giants.
I hope in a year or two or whatever your 5-year mission, like you said, looks like, that it's in a year or two. And I hope that we're there to cheers right along with you. I would cheers to this episode and, all of the good conversation today, because I think it is, it's truly state changing, and it's going to be life changing. So we are along for the ride, and we cannot wait to see what's next. Yep.
Thank you both for being here. I know your time's very busy and y'all are moving fast. So thanks for the time, the beautiful conversation, and very, very patriotic. I'm feeling that little bubble in my chest too. I know. The bigger mission.
I may have to add a little music to this one.
Yeah, good stuff. But again, thanks for being here, you guys. Much, much appreciated, and good luck. Godspeed.
Yeah. Be sure and like, subscribe, and follow on all podcast platforms. To all of our fabulous listeners, thank you for being with us today.